Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to be painting a beautiful lily for Easter. Happy Easter weekend to everybody. It's a Saturday before Easter. I've got my husband Mark here with me.
Hey there, everybody.
And I decided to do a lily in our large flower series. If you're new to my channel, we've been doing these large single flower paintings. This is our fourth. We did a rose, a poppy, and an orchid before this, and so this one's our lily. And the rose that we did was white, so I decided to go a little bit pink. I know traditionally the Easter lily is a white lily, but I found one that was kind of a blush pink, so I decided to choose that for our Easter-ish theme. Close enough, right? We're going to be doing this live, so if you've got any questions, you can pose those in the chat while we're streaming here, and Mark will try to get those to me as I work. It'll be, I think I took several hours on this. I can't remember. I got interrupted a couple of times, so I think it took me almost 3 hours to do this one. Hopefully, I'm going to try to streamline it a little bit so it's a little bit shorter for y'all, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We are using acrylics today. I don't think I mentioned that. Let me show you our colors. We've got titanium white, unbleached titanium. This is cadmium yellow medium, Pyrrole orange, Pyrrole orange, or you can use like cadmium red light would work as well. Burnt sienna, quinacridone magenta, light ultramarine blue, which is a pre-mixed colors, just ultramarine blue plus white. This is ultramarine blue. This is cerulean blue. And if you don't have that one, phthalo blue probably would work if you would put some white with it. Phthalo green, yellow shade, and this is a premixed color that's phthalo green plus some yellow. So it's called vivid, brilliant yellow green. And that's it. That's our color palette. So the premixed colors you don't have to have to make this work. You can just mix them up ahead of time. I'm going to set my example aside. I'm going to pop up our little photograph that I used for my painting up there in the corner so you can see it while I'm working. Hopefully we'll be able to keep our palette in the shot too. See, I've got an 11 by 14 inch canvas that we'll use today, but you can use whatever size you want, you know, just adjust your size of your lily accordingly. Let's go quickly through how I drew the lily. When I'm doing flowers, I usually start in the center because that's going to be where the main part of your flower kind of comes from. All the petals are going to come out from the center section. So it's really important to get that in the right spot, or your petals will either go off the canvas or, you know, be in the wrong spot. So I always kind of look at my photograph, and in this case, it was the center here was just to the bottom of the middle part. So if this is our middle, we're coming just off the center, and it was really right at the third. If you look at the rule of thirds, this one hits right there at the third mark. So if you kind of come across to the third and then find your center mark and just go over just slightly from that, you'll find where you want to start your center of your lily. And the center dips down on this little part here, so I'm just going to use, I think I'll use the let's use the we'll use this blue, mix some white in it. I'll thin it out a little bit. I just want it just dark enough for you to be able to see it, but I don't want it so dark that it's going to overwhelm it. I used my gray watercolor pencil to draw this onto the canvas. You could use chalk as well if you wanted to, or you could draw it on paper and then transfer it to your canvas with tracing paper and transfer paper. So that's just up to you. So the first little section of the lily has got this petal, has got this like box shape right here. And then you're going to curve up and over. Nice big looping curve. And then it wiggles a little bit as it comes down, almost straight down from here. And if this is my third or this is my halfway mark. This is my quarter mark here. So this petal is going to fit in, this part of the petal is going to hit that quarter mark right there. So just kind of come out to that spot right there and then come down. Wiggle a little bit as you come down, and then it kind of flattens out right there, curves back around, and then this part you're going to curve up and over. And it's kind of at an angle right here. So these two are not equal. They're going to be kind of angled. The tops of this petal here. And it's going to curve down, wiggle a little bit, curve in, and then continue and just continue to till it meets up with that one. Okay, so that's our first petal. Then we'll do this second one here, this big one. It's going to come off from, if you remember to make sure that they all point down to the center, there's a center line in each of these petals, and they're all going to point down into this spot. So that'll help you keep your petals from getting off center. You're not going to see the start of this one, but we'll just put it back pointing down toward that spot, and it'll kind of angle up sort of this way. Not cut straight up, and then it'll kind of curve upward, straight up, and then start pointing out this way. And you're just going to kind of point it to this upper corner, and it fills up really most of this spot up here. You doing okay in chat today, hon?
Yes, everybody's behaving themselves.
Good. Good to hear. Don't want to start any fights.
I'm keeping an eye on them.
Okay.
You know how rowdy they can get sometimes.
Oh, I know. Art breeds drama, I'm telling you. Okay. So from here, I'm going to angle it up this way. So you can kind of use this bottom section right here as your guide and just kind of come up at a diagonal from that and start this petal here. And it just sort of wiggles its way up and around. And there's kind of a drop right here where it kind of curves in on itself and curves down slightly over the edge there. This point here is the center line of your lily. So if you want to just gently do that line, that'll kind of help you as you're painting your brush strokes. This one here, the center line, is from this corner and curves up and down to about right here, like that. Okay, so then this one is just, you start your little curved line from here and go around. And if you want to start it this way, you can. That'll kind of help you see where to end your petal. It's going to curve down and then wiggle its way toward that point. It'll curve down right here, and you'll do kind of a straight line along there and then back up. Then this side is going to wiggle from about there, go in and out as it curves down toward this spot, and then you've got a long curve all the way to the end. And then this part tucks back in. There's a little fold underneath that you see. I always do this. I always draw this side first, and then I end up putting my hand on it. This side. Do this side first.
Unless you're lefty.
True, true. Okay, so this one you're going to come...
Can you rotate your painting?
I can, but I don't want to do that right now because I don't want to confuse anybody. So if you did the...
Too late.
What?
Too late.
Okay.
I'm just being silly.
if you take that angle there, this is going to start right about where that where this starts to curve down. So right about at that point there, you're going to kind of start this petal coming up, and it's going to angle gently up towards this side. It ends about, well, here's our halfway mark and here's our quarter mark. So it's going to, well, let's see. It's really kind of fits almost right in the third of this canvas. So if you kind of measure out the third here, it kind of ends right at the top of the third, and the bottom of it is at this third. So does that make sense? It'll help you when I'm drawing, especially if I'm going up in scale on something. What I do is look at the general placement of the item on my example drawing. So instead of worrying about you know, how big each petal is, really all you need to do is figure out the placement and say, you know, there's my thirds. Okay, so I know that that petal is going to be as big on my canvas as this third section right here. And so then you just fit it into that section. It's almost like gridding, but you're doing it without actually putting the grid on your canvas. So if you've ever done that in drawing school where you grid your canvas out and then grid on top of your drawing, I'm just doing that mentally and just kind of trying to figure out where my grids are falling. Okay. So this one has a curve that kind of comes like this. And then this whole section here is kind of shaded. So this whole section from here, I'm doing it very lightly because I don't want it to be really dark. It's going to have shadow right to there. And then it dips in right here, and that's where the center line of the petal starts. So it kind of curves like this and down into that spot. That's the main center line. And then it wiggles back up and around. Kind of goes straight flat for a little while, and then it curves back up. Wiggle, wiggle. And then it does this long. I didn't make that one long, not big enough there, I don't think. Adjust my drawing as I go here. Okay, then this one is going to curve up. The center line kind of comes from right here, so you can mark that first if you want to, if that helps you. That'll be the lowest point of this petal right here. It kind of does this ampersand thing, or is that what that's called when you do the little bracket? Maybe it's called a bracket, I don't know. Well, no, the ampersand is the and thing. No, I don't know what I was thinking. This is a bracket. Here.
Okay, we'll redo that. We'll rewind and start again.
Right there.
Brackets.
So it looks like a bracket, you know, like if you ever drawn that at school. That's exactly what it looked like. Paragraph. And then this kind of curves down here. This angle mimics this angle. So you can kind of, the whole thing is tilted slightly. And that's, oh, we got one more petal to do. Sorry. It's like, that's it. Nope, not quite. Okay, so this petal curves from here and always pointing to this, right? These are all pointing, even though this one's pointing this way, it's going to curve. The implied line is that it's curving. So it would continue to curve to this point. So this one is going to curve like this from this point up and over and end right about there. These lines will help us because these are how the petal grows and where the lines radiate from. So all of our brush strokes are going to follow these lines as we paint the lily, and that will help us keep it looking natural and realistic. Oops. Oh, I got a lot of white there. Didn't mean to do that. So dip it in. Wait, no, that goes. Too many dips there. This one comes up like this and dips in and then goes out. Dips, my line wasn't right there. Adjusting my drawing. And then it comes up and around and then flattens out. And then there's a little bit of it tucked at an angle behind that one. And then this part curves up. Like that. Okay, so those are our main lines for our lily. We're not going to draw any of the center part right now. We're going to save that for the very last. Well, I'm going to grab a number 4 flat. This is my Simmons Titanium, but you can use whatever brush works best for you, that you're most comfortable fitting in there. You could even use your Filbert. I used my Filbert when I did my smaller one. I think I'm going to use this brush for this for now, and we'll see how it goes. And I'm going to grab my white. And I'm going to put in my brightest areas first because I found that the white did not want to stay white once I started introducing that Quinacridone Magenta to it. So I'm just going to put in a base coat of white on here. It's not going to really show up very dramatically, but it'll, I think, help. Go right on top of that blue line there. Most of that's going to be covered up by other colors. Okay, so I'm putting that on quickly, and then while that's wet, I'm going to start introducing a little bit of this Quinacridone Magenta, and a little bit goes a long way, so I'm talking like 1 part to 10 parts white, or not even that, maybe 20 parts white to 1 part pink. It does not need to be very much to get this blush color that we're looking for. This is going to be main color of the lily. There's certain parts that are going to be bright white, but a lot of the lily is going to be this pink color. So I'm going to stay away from the areas that I want it to stay bright white, and I'm just going to start kind of laying in some pink. This area right here is white. So all from this tip all the way down right here, I want to stay away from if I can to keep it white. It'll help having that coat of white in there first because it'll mix with it. There's also a bright white that comes up from right there, so I'm just going to kind of avoid my white sections. There we go. Hope this is showing up on camera okay. It's very subtle at this point, so it's not going to be too noticeable. Okay, then I'm going to grab some more of this Quinacridone Magenta, and I'm going to come along this edge here, and I'm going to lay in some of that color and just blend it in. If your color has already dried, you can still do this. You just might add a little bit of white down and then put the pink on top of it. Do it in sections, so it's perfectly fine. Curving it all the way down to this little center mark. Then there's some pink that comes up, some bright pink that comes up from here. Just kind of flicking and feathering it up into, if it's starting to dry right here, I'm going to just pick up a little bit more of my white, pull in the opposite direction. If it's still not drying, blending well, I'm going to wipe my brush clean pick up just white and then blend down with a clean brush. You can see how this pink kind of just takes over. So it's wanting to spread into areas where I don't necessarily want it. That's okay. As long as we're doing all of our brush strokes in this general correct direction, we can kind of play with the colors a little bit. We're just trying to get our values really dark. Right here is going to be super dark, and you want, if you look at the photograph and see this little section right in the center there, it's better on the camera than it is here because my values got a little washed out when I printed it. But this color right here is as dark as the outside. So look at the example painting there, or the example photograph there, and see how dark that center is going to be as dark as here. That's, I think, where a lot of people have issues with when they're painting, is they don't make this area here dark enough, and so it lacks depth. So we're just going to really try to make sure that this area is really, really dark once we get to that point. We're not there yet, but it's coming. So I'm going to grab some of this blue. This is the light ultramarine, and we're going to use that in this section. Now here again, I want to stay away from this general area, so I'm just going to kind of streak it up and let it sort of feather up into, the paint's starting to get sticky, so I'm probably just going to stop here and let that all dry, and we'll come back to that petal. So let me clean out my brush and we'll do the next one. Now if you're doing this on a really large canvas, I'd probably just do small sections of white. You know, I covered the whole thing with white and then we put the colors on. What I might do is have one brush that's white and one brush that's got your colors, and that way you're just going to flip-flop back and forth between the two so that you make sure that your white paint stays white and doesn't get contaminated with the other colors that you're using. Okay, let's do this one up here.
So no dirty white today?
No dirty white today.
Okay. And my fans are wanting to know if they're going to get to see any sweet drying going on.
Oh, are you going to draw something today?
Drying.
Drying. Oh, I don't think so today. Well, maybe when I do the background. Well, no, I kind of don't think so. We'll see. It just depends on how well I layer this.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry guys,
to disappoint you. You can go ahead and do something else. It's all right.
Yeah. I know you tuned in for that, so.
Okay, somebody asked if their paint is drying too quickly. What would be recommended to help blend it?
Well, I do have some of this blending medium here. It's a golden glazing liquid, and it helps extend the dry time of your paint. So you could add a little bit of that into your paint, especially like your white. It'll leave it dry or leave it wet a little bit longer. Give you a little bit more play time with your paint before it starts to dry completely. This area here is very, very dark, so I'm going to grab some of the Quinacridone Magenta and go really dark right along the edge. I'm just kind of using my brush at an angle here. And going to go right along the edge. And then just sort of lightly, very lightly tap out the edges to feather it into the other colors. We'll put a little bit of the pink right down in that section there. There's some pink that comes down from the middle right here, so I'll just kind of do my line right there. Then we'll grab that lighter pink, or mix up some more of that lighter pink. And this adds a little bit of the blue in it, but that's okay. We'll do some lighter pink along that top edge there. This is definitely going to be a painting about layers, so we're not going to get it finished in the one, in the first layer. So if your first layers don't look really great, don't worry about it. We can always blend out. If your blends aren't completely looking, really smooth, don't worry about that, because we can always put other colors on top to help blend them in later. These blends are very streaky right now, so that's pretty normal. Let's grab a little bit of that blue. We'll do a little bit of the blue along this side. My white's starting to dry, so don't want to mess with it. Once it starts to dry, it'll get sticky, and then it'll lift right off your canvas if you mess with it. So just kind of be aware if your paint's starting to feel like it's dragging. If your paintbrush feels like it's dragging on the canvas as you're trying to work with it, it means it's starting to dry, and so you need to just back away, let it dry. Get a hairdryer if you need to, and you can use a hairdryer to help speed things along if you're, wanting to. If you're in a hurry like I get. So Mark's lamenting the lack of hairdryer, but you really shouldn't have to in this painting use the hairdryer because you really should just be able to go to the next section. We're just doing it in sections, so while this is drying, we can do this section, and then we can always, we can just kind of rotate back around and keep working on each section, going back to the ones that have dried.
Okay, we have another question.
Yep.
Asked, what could they substitute for ultramarine blue light?
All it is ultramarine. If you have ultramarine blue, you just mix some white with it. That's all it is. It's just white and ultramarine blue together. It's just pre-mixed color, and it's a certain level of pre-mixed, so it's consistent, and I use it a lot in my paintings. So it's a good light value shadow color because it's got that violet blue in it. It's a cool color, so it recedes visually, but it still stays light colored. So some things like this flower who have light shades, there's shadowing in here in some of these areas, but it's not all that dark. Like the values, it's maybe 2 or 3 shades darker than your lightest value, so you don't need it to be a super dark color like purple or ultramarine blue or whatever that you might use for a shadow color. So the light blue or the light ultramarine blue is one that I use a lot when I want to indicate a shadow on a light color. Does that make sense? I think, hopefully.
I'm sure it does to somebody. Probably to those painter type people.
Painters types. Okay. Hopefully. This is definitely one of the more advanced level paintings. So I do if you're new to my channel, I do more beginner type paintings. So like first time paintings, or first or second painting levels on Tuesday nights because they're shorter. Mark's coming home from a full day of work, so I try to have mercy on him and feed him.
You gotta leave time for me to make dinner too, huh? And massage your feet.
Exactly. He actually did make dinner last week, so it's not too far from the truth. Well, I'm cleaning my brushes and uploading videos and all that good stuff.
But no foot massage, though.
No, I didn't get a foot massage. I'll have to add that to my requests. So you doomed yourself now. I've got Quinacridone Magenta here. So Tuesday nights are kind of beginner level paintings. Of course, if you're watching this years from now, there's no telling. So you can go to my channel header page by clicking on my name or my photograph, and it'll take you to my main channel page. And there, up at the top, the header has my schedule. So right now we're Tuesdays and Saturdays. And like I said, Tuesday nights are the this is going to be my lightest area, so I'm going to kind of leave that for some of my white here, and I'm going to work on my shadow areas here. So this last Tuesday we did a super simple cotton swab painting Q-tips. That's all. The whole thing was Q-tips, and a little bit of credit card.
Well, hold on here. You didn't paint Q-tips. You painted flowers
with my Q-tips.
With Q-tips, right, okay, because exactly. That wouldn't be too exciting of a video.
No.
Learn to paint a Q-tip. We could try it, see what happens. You never know.
We might get
a sponsor. I mean, somebody painted soup cans. I mean, seriously. And they're really famous.
True. But he didn't paint on soup cans. He painted,
Well, okay, so yeah, we wouldn't paint on the cotton swabs either.
Well, that was what I thought you were saying we were going to do.
No, just paint a like
cotton
a
swab.
painting of a cotton
Got it.
swab.
No, it's okay. We won't do
Okay.
that.
But-
Okay, I'm going to
but
grab
seriously,
white while
folks.
this is wet and mix some. Go right along that edge and pull some white highlights right along that edge back into that wet paint. What? Are you still telling me? a joke?
No. So, somebody asked, "What is your favorite flower?" And it wasn't me. But I'll
It
write
used
it
to be
down.
iris. I used to really have a thing for irises, but that was kind of my Van Gogh stage where I was really into Van Gogh too. So, which I still am, and I still love irises. I kind of merged over to poppies. I do like roses too, peonies. I like the multi-layered ranunculus, like those kind of multi-layered flowers that have a lot of petals that are all bunched up together, like the cabbage roses and things. And peonies and those, I don't know, but I do like poppies too. I think I like poppies because you can't grow them here. They're like, I really wish I could grow poppies. They just don't. Although there's some really pretty pink poppies that are, I think they're poppies. I'm not sure. They might not be poppies. They're growing along the side of the freeway right now here in Arkansas. So I'm not sure what they are, but they're really pretty. They look like poppies.
I'll tell you what they are here in a second.
Okay. They're little pink wildflowers.
They are called Heartleaf Alexanders.
Okay, so they're not poppies, obviously. They look like poppies a little bit.
Yeah.
I actually took some photographs because we were lined up. I had to change my route to get to the boys to school because they were tardy one day because we came off the freeway and sat there for 10 minutes trying to get, we were literally lined up on the freeway, which is scary, trying to get off the freeway, off ramp, and then, so anyhow, long story, I took a bunch of pictures of poppies that day, or pink, whatever they were. Yeah, I was like taking pictures outside the window while I'm waiting because they were right there while I'm waiting in line to get, I was like, hey, if you're going to be late to school, you might as well get something out of it.
They look like that, right?
Yep.
Okay, yep. They had some down by
Almost look
the
like a balloon flower.
Game and Fish building. They got all
did
their
you take
flowers
some?
labeled.
Ah,
So I took some pictures
some
so I knew what they
pictures.
were.
I see. So you already had that picture, huh?
No, I ran out real quick and took it while you were painting.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I didn't know you.
Yep.
Mark's my Instagram guy. He takes my. What?
No,
it's
that's-
okay. People know that already. He helps me with my Instagram page because I'm so bad at remembering to post stuff. So he takes pictures for me and puts them on Instagram. I'm adding yellow to this mixture here. It's got the Quinacridone Magenta. I think it had a little bit, maybe a tiny bit of the blue too. And I'm just going to start to introduce a little bit of this yellow too. This is dry, so I'm going to go ahead and use it right here. And I don't have very much on my brush. See how dry my brush looks? So I'm just going to kind of lightly skim it over here and add a little bit of this orangey yellow color. We'll add a little bit over here. This is probably dry too. We're at the ugly stage here, so just know that that's part of the painting process. These paintings go through stages, and if you're new to painting, you may get to this point and think you've done something wrong. This just doesn't look right, and start to freak out. I get a lot of emails from freakouts where they've got the painting to this point, or they've gotten it close to finished, but they still need a couple more layers of paint, and they think that they've ruined it, or and they're threatening to gesso over their canvas or something. And I'm like, no, please don't. You're like so close to actually being finished, you don't even realize. So they just, acrylic paintings in general, they're just about layering. And there's, most of the time, a lot of the times, paintings don't look good with acrylics. They don't look like, I don't know. I mean, some paintings do. This one's probably going to be not as ugly as some maybe at this point, but most paintings look really bad until like the final layer, you know, and then you're like, oh, okay, I see it now. So somebody said my cow had creepy eyes the other day until I put the eyes, which is obvious, you know. I mean, she wasn't saying it mean. She was just like, boy, that cow had creepy eyes until you put it. And I was like, yep, yep, that's it. That's exactly it. It's just hashtag creepy cow eyes. Okay, I'm using this quinacridone. I'm using the curve that I see how I did this line here. So I'm going to use that curve, and all my brush strokes are going to follow that curve. These ones are going to kind of curve in towards here. They're not going to go all the way to this line, but they're going to kind of mimic that curvature. That's the trick. If you can get that right, you could change any of these colors and it would still look good. Just by following that curve. That's the whole trick to the lilies.
Oh, see, that bottom one looks like a tongue right now.
Yep. Sticking the tongue out at you. Speaking of tongues, the giraffe had her baby this morning. I was watching her. She was cleaning it and pushing it around. It was really cute.
All right, so maybe she wasn't faking.
No, Mark kept saying she's faking it.
I mean,
no,
what
she's
what
not
was
faking
like?
it.
People have been watching her for what, a month?
Yeah. Apparently they can go like up to 2 months overdue, and she was fully, I think almost fully 2 months overdue. So we did our giraffe tribute a little early painting. I was like, jumped in there and did a giraffe painting.
Trying to catch the wave.
Trying to catch that wave, and boy,
early,
it just like, yep, we were way early. I'm adding the unbleached, or the light ultramarine blue. I never can do my names of paints while I'm painting here. It's a right brain thing. Adding it into there so it kind of blended a little bit with the pinks. So, and then this area had that little kind of bit of yellowish color in it. So that's looking good. Grab a little bit of the quinacridone, a little bit of the burnt sienna. Make a dark color just for this little area here. It's going to be nice and dark right there. While I've got this dark color on my brush, I'm going to use it to streak in. I'm using the edge of my brush. I'm just going to use it to streak in some lines on this one. There's a really dark section right there, and there's a really dark section right here. I want to get it going the right direction though. It's going to follow that line, so that curve. Just go ahead and put it all in here because this whole section needs to be darker. Okay, so now it's going to start looking a little bit more like a flower. Let's do some of that color right in here. And I'm using the edge of my brush to draw it in, and then I'm just going to pull it in the direction that I want my streaks to go.
Somebody's asked
Grab
is
some white
is
come
the
back this direction with the white. What?
somebody's asked if the paint layers are because the paints are translucent, or why are you layering the paint? I guess is a better way to
Why
put
am
it.
I layering the paint? Because
Yes.
it gives you, even with acrylics, because most of these colors are opaque because I'm adding white to them, even though they're opaque colors and they're going to cover each other fairly solidly, there's still going to be just a little bit of the undercolors peeking through when you even when you're layering on top of each other. And so every time you do a new layer and it's just a little bit different color, a little bit different value, it adds to that story of the painting. It makes it more interesting and then makes it more rich than if you were to just put everything on in one coat and be done. Those, the paintings that you do like in a paint party where you're, laying everything down in one coat and being done, they're awesome and they're really great for beginners, but they're not as rich texturally, visually, as you would get as if you're layering multiple layers on top of one another, because you just get the different, I don't know, it just has a totally different look. And if you look and break down, once you start painting and you kind of look at other painters that are in museums or paintings, that's one of my favorite things to do, is get really close. I get in trouble all the time. I've actually set off alarms in the museums because I get so close to the paintings trying to see how they've done the layers. And there's some painters that have techniques that use very flat layers and they don't have a lot of depth in them. That's their style. But the paintings that are more realistic or that have a little bit, even like Impressionist art, that kind of thing. I need to paint while I'm talking. They have... I'm passionate about this subject.
Well,
getting my hands involved.
Let me tell you, me for one, the hand motions are helping me understand it much better. So I'll go back and rewind it so I can
watch my hand motions.
Watch your hands again, so I can fully understand.
Shut up. What I was saying was, if you look at museum pieces or fine art pieces, I would say majority of the time, unless it's a deliberate stylistic choice, there is a lot of layering going on in paintings, and you're only seeing kind of the top layers. Your eyes kind of blending all those layers together and creating a story for yourself, because that's what your eye kind of generally does. But if you stop and really start to look and break down little sections of the painting at a time, you can really realize how many colors are going on there. Monet was a master of it. He'd have 7, 8 different colors on one brush stroke that he would have, and he'd have multiple layers of colors going on. And I mean, his paintings are amazing to look at up close because they just have all of this stuff going on in them. And then when you look at it from a distance, it looks like a scene, it kind of all merges together into a story. But if you get really up close, they just have this richness to them. So that's what we're attempting to do. We're not doing a Monet type style here today, but we're doing more. This is more what I do when I like to paint. This is my style of painting. I like to do realistic with a painterly touch. So there's a lot of blending and a lot of layers. And it looks realistic, but it still looks like a painting too. It's both. I try to kind of combine them so that it's kind of more interesting than just pure realism. Okay, I'm going to grab some of this Pyrrole orange now. And this one has the Pyrrole orange. I'm going to add maybe just a touch of the Quinacridone Magenta. And right here, now I've got, this is all wet still here, this pink and white that I've put down. And I'm just going to come along this edge, and I'm going to avoid this part here because this section is going to be white, this front section right here, the tongue that comes out. So I'm just going behind that and tucking this dark color right up behind it. And then I'm going to go on this side of it and pull some color this way. Okay. See how that's leaving this part exposed, and it's already kind of making it look folded. Let's put a little bit of this color over here. This is dry enough, I think. Put it right up in that dark area right there and just brush it out slightly. and then put a little bit of it here. A little bit of it here, and a little bit of it here. When I'm introducing a new color like this, I want to add it other places, and it'll unify my painting. So even if I just do a teeny tiny bit of it, it'll help kind of unify the whole thing. All right, that's looking good. This is not blended yet, but I'm not worried about it because I'll be doing more layers there, so it'll blend in later. Let's add just a little bit. I think this is starting to dry, so I'm gonna have to wait on that. I did other layers there. We'll add the blue later. So I'm gonna grab some more of this light pink. It's just tiniest bit of Quinacridone Magenta. And we'll use that on this one. Really, these first layers are just basically covering the canvas with paint. Grabbing pure white now because this area up here is really bright, and I'm going over the top of that line that I painted to soften it. Grab a little bit of the yellow. And there's some yellow in the middle of this one.
Somebody's asked if it has to be semi-dry to pull the paint.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, it doesn't. You can do it while it's wet too. It'll blend a little bit more, but you'll still get, you won't get as much streaking because it'll be a little bit slightly more blended, but yeah, you can do it both ways. This is kind of wet into wet blending here that we've been doing. We'll lay down the wet underlayer in a light color, and then we can blend over it with the darker color, and it kind of merges the two. So we'll do it here in this section right down here. Grab some Quinacridone Magenta. Pretty dark. It's going to merge a little bit with what's on my brush, but I don't have a lot of paint on there. And I'm just going to set it down and pull up. And it's going to, it's not technically dry brushing, but it's similar. It's got a similar look. It's definitely flicking, and I'm lifting as I pull, so that way if I was to try to pull the whole section and then lift, I would get a hard edge. So what I'm doing is lifting and flicking it out as I brush, and that gives me that streakiness that I want. I'm going to need more white because I did a little bit more dark there than I wanted it. Just going over this with white to soften that up a little bit. There we go. Let's do, I think that's good enough. Let's do a little bit of this darker pink right here. Kind of transitioning from that orange to pink. A little bit. Grab some white. Help blend over it. Okay. 50 minutes. We're not too bad. Honestly, if you wanted to leave it at this point, you could. This is close enough to, you know, finished painting that you could probably call it good at this point. You know, if you're not wanting to go into a lot of depth, a lot more realism. I mean, I think that this is gonna, you know, it's at a nice stage. If you painted the background a dark color, it'll really pop it out at you a little bit more, look more dimensional. I'd go, you know, darker in the center, obviously, but the petals are looking, you know, close. They need a couple more layers, but close enough. What are you doing?
I'm checking to see how it looks on my phone. It looked a little washed out on the computer, but on my phone it's very, very brilliant.
Looks okay.
Yeah, the pink is much more bright.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Okay,
So
good.
if you need to, well, no, I can't. I need my phone. I was going to let people borrow my phone if they needed to watch it, but no, I need it. I'm
You
sorry,
need it?
everybody. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. I'm grabbing the unbleached titanium now. I have no comment to that. No comment. And it's actually pretty close to that pink color that we, or that yellowish color that we did before. I'm going to grab some more white. We'll use that too. Now I'm going to kind of blend back over some of this color, and it'll set it back, soften it a little bit. I'm just using kind of that combination between those two colors. I'm just sort of lightly brushing over some of these areas.
Did you think I was watching some other YouTube channel?
I didn't know what you're doing. I just saw you over there looking at your screen. Okay, now I'm going to introduce the Cerulean Blue here. And I've got these whites on my brush, so it's mixing with them. It's probably mixing a little bit with whatever was on the canvas here. That's fine. Mostly just Cerulean Blue and white, though. I'm going to put in, there's a dark shadow right here. That kind of creeps up right there. Again, lifting the brush as I brush it, grab a little bit more white, blend back over that edge where I want it to soften. There we go. Let's add a little bit of it right here. These paints are still wet where I kind of softened them up earlier with the white, so just be careful. We'll add a little bit of it up here. And grab some more white. Add some of that back over. I'm going to mix with that blue and make a soft blue color. Blend over that, and I'm going to grab a little bit more of the quinacridone, maybe mix a little bit of that cerulean blue with it. It'll make it a little bit more of a purplish color. Wipe most of it off, and then I'm going to use it right here because I want this area nice and dark. And I only have it like on the corner of my brush. I loaded it that way on purpose, so I just tipped the corner of it into each color and brushed it out so that it's... If it's not blending, grab a little bit of your blending medium, blend that in. There we go. Now it's going to soften that up. So now I'm going to start mixing my colors that I used and creating some more things happening. So here's a little bit of that color along that edge. Grab a little bit of the blending medium. Use that to soften that edge a little bit. If it doesn't want to blend out, I'm going to wipe my brush clean and just use it like a soft mop, or you could use a mop separate if you have one. Just kind of blend that out a little bit while it's wet.
So we got somebody in chat says that they're glad to catch you live to say thank you and that you're a great teacher and an inspiration to them as a beginner.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's sweet. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. That's my whole goal is to help. I love teaching. I like it when other people are excited about painting like I am. I don't have that many people in my life that are excited about painting, to be honest. I've got a couple of art friends here in town, but not a lot of my friends like to paint. So I think I reached out on YouTube as a coping mechanism. I was like, surely somebody will share my joy of painting with me.
Well, if you weren't into video games, you'd have 3 sons and a husband that, could share your passion.
That's true. That's true. I never did. I can't even watch video games. They make me sick to my stomach. from motion sickness. I cannot. I mean, I've tried sitting in and watching with them, you know, and being like, "Oh, good job, honey." I mean, I can watch like not even 5 minutes of it, and I'll just be like, "What?" So I still sit in there with them. I just don't watch. Yeah. So sadly, I can't support you in that, honey. Sorry.
You just listen to me yell at the TV.
I do, and I'm like, if you are so frustrated by that game, why do you keep playing it? That's what I don't understand. Like, if I was that frustrated every time I painted, I don't think I'd go back to doing it again and again. This is that cerulean blue mixture that I used here. I got a little bit bright, so I'm going to grab some white, and I cleaned out my brush, and I'm just going to use the white and pull back this way. While it's wet, it'll blend it out a little bit. This is a great blending lesson. So if you're having trouble blending, this is a really good one. My poppy one is probably, these flower paintings kind of have increased in difficulty as I've gone along. So this one is probably a little bit trickier than the orchid, which was a little bit trickier than the rose, which was a little bit harder than the poppy. The poppy is probably the easiest one. So if you want to start with the blending lesson, I would start there and then work your way up to this one maybe. I lost my edge there, so I'm just going back in with some dark color, adding that back in. Okay, we're getting there. Well, I've got this dark color here. I'm just going to kind of edge out some of these areas there. I'm not strictly outlining, but it helps to have a little bit of definition between those petals. I'm going to grab some yellow mixed with my white, and I'm going to blend right up to that line, but not go over it, just to soften that up. Okay, and that'll also brighten up this center area here. Let's grab some of that orange. I need to spray my canvas. My paints are getting dry. Add a little bit of that orange. So just have it on the corner of my brush again. That way I can kind of control the amount that I'm laying down, and I can just angle and touch the very tip of it in there and tap it where I want it to go. There we go. Just going to kind of outline that whole section there. Brighten that up, and I may just pull out a little bit of it into that wet yellow too. Add some streaks. Looking good. Okay, then this color with a little bit of burnt sienna.
Okay, people are just throwing money at you now.
Really?
We had a super chat earlier from Johanna.
Thank you, Johanna.
And we just got another super chat from Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Both at the $10 level.
Awesome. That's so sweet.
So thank you so much. I'm going to run down to McDonald's now.
I know. The lunchtime.
Give myself a combo meal.
Thank you. That's awesome. Hey, every little bit.
Hey, trust me.
I know. We are very, very appreciative.
It does mean a lot, and we are very, very grateful for it.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't know.
I've been blown away that, I mean, just on the Super Chats and Patreon and all of that, it's just, I almost didn't start Patreon, and I delayed it for over a year because I just was like, I don't want to go on there and then like 2 people support me. It would be embarrassing, you know. Plus, you know, I just didn't want to ask for money until we were doing these regularly. I've got the white and I've added it to my yellow here, and I'm just going to brighten up some of these areas. So I didn't want to, you know, do it until I had a regular schedule going. And Mark and I started the regular schedule last year in October. So I think we just started the two-week schedule. That seems to be working so far. So far, so good.
Yeah, right now we have, you have 346 supporters on Patreon.
I know, it's
That's
amazing.
just absolutely incredible.
I've been completely humbled and shocked. Honestly, I had no idea that many people were supporting us. You know, I get a lot of emails and things, and I get a lot of comments, but they all kind of blend together after a while. So it's been like, wow, not blend together, but I always read all of your comments, and I try to reply on everything. If I do my best, it's getting harder, but yeah, it's been shocking. Honestly, I was totally shocked that we had that many people that were interested in what we were doing.
And because of it, I went out last week and priced and looked at some different cameras.
Yep.
And the first part of next week, I'll go down and make the purchase so we can finally upgrade
The camera.
our camera that we've had, our little family Sony camera.
Yeah, little handy cameras.
Went from taking video of the boys when they're little to
Yeah.
this. So hopefully we'll see a marked improvement in the video quality.
Okay, we are gonna have to talk to the ant guys. Whoop. Got an ant on my. Just walked up on my canvas. I don't know where
Okay,
he
well
went to.
let's
Oh, there he is.
keep focused.
Sorry, well I'm trying to kill it. He's trying to get on camera. He's
Well, he
getting
saw a
cameo.
flower.
He saw a flower.
It's like that fly on the other video.
That's right. Okay, I'm going back in with my white now. I'm just brightening up this. That's true. That's true. He was probably confused. He's looking for a snack. It's that season again. To call the pest control guys. They just sprayed last week, so we shouldn't be having ants in the house. Should not be happening.
Well, it's because they sprayed outside, so they all came in.
Yeah, it's true.
It's safe in here.
That's very true. I was like, oh my gosh, retreat. Indoors. I hadn't thought of that, you're right. Okay, I'm going to use this brighter pink here. It's just like kind of my medium value. I want to cover over some of that blue that I put in there. I don't want it so bright. So I'm going to add a lot of white here. I'm going to tap over that edge with my white. It's going to kind of disappear into my canvas, but I can still see it. And once I get that dark color behind on the canvas, you'll be able to tell a lot better where these petals are going. Okay. Here again, always pointing, even when I'm up here in these little areas here, I'm always pulling my brush strokes in the correct direction so that if they're streaked, they look like we meant to do that.
Okay, we got a question somebody's asked would it be okay to use a retarder?
Yeah, you can always use a retarder if that helps you blend. Absolutely. I find that they can make your paint a little bit slick. So I don't particularly like using them just because of that, because I don't like the texture that they give my paint. But if you're used to using one, yeah, absolutely. You have to control the amount that you use. That's one of the reasons that I like to use the golden glazing liquid, because I'm adding yellow to this pink here. I want to make a light peach. It's not quite solid quinacridone here. Is because I can use as much of the glazing medium as I want to. So if I wanted to do a very, very thin wash, I could have 90% glazing medium and just 1%, paint. With extenders, you have to be careful because you can only add, and it depends on the brand, so you need to look on your brand that you're using. But they all have different amounts of paint to, like ratios of paint to extender to use. So you don't want to use more than what it tells you to do, because otherwise you're going to end up with paint that's not sticking properly. Okay, I'm grabbing the white and I'm just going to soften that back up. Blend back in the opposite direction over the top of that, just to blend it back in. Same thing over here.
We have a couple other questions.
Okay.
One person said that they've watched your other tutorials and they've done them, and they've wanted to try to do some on their own from their own reference photos.
Right.
So they want to know, how do you determine what undercoat colors to use first?
I look at the colors that I can find farthest away. Now, on a petal like this, you know, it's all a solid surface, so you're dealing with folds and shadows and things like that. But if you're dealing with like a three-dimensional object that has multiple surfaces and things like that, I'm just looking for the farthest color in the distance. So the farthest, the most, okay, I'm going to add a little bit of the Cerulean Blue in this light ultramarine here and a tiny bit of pink. And I'm going to make my streaks in my petal. So here I'm going to, so yeah, I'm just going to kind of, you know, look. Actually, I want to switch to a smaller brush because I think I used a smaller. It'll give me a little bit more control in my line, a little bit thinner line. So I'm using a 1/4 inch now. That was like a 1/2 inch flat. Look at the undertones in your colors. Look in, or you know, in your subject, and look. Usually, I work from dark to light, so I usually look for the darkest colors and then work toward light. In this case, with this particular one, because there was so much white in it, I'm kind of doing it a little bit differently than I might normally. But okay, I'm going to start right here with this kind of dipped right here. This is kind of where there's sort of two that kind of come like this, and then there's a split right here that's sort of goes all the way down. And don't worry too much about getting it exactly. We're just kind of trying to put some lines in here at first, and we'll clean them up here in a minute.
Ready for the next question?
Sure.
Okay. Do you know
Grabbing white now.
what
Going back over these to soften them up.
let's see, it says what color Grumbacher red is closest to
Ooh, I have no
in
idea.
liquid text? Okay, I didn't think that you would know that, so
Grumbacher red.
we'd have to
No.
Google that.
Yeah, you would. You'd have to Google it. I bet if I had it, I could tell you, but I don't have that color. I just don't know. I'm not familiar with it. I'm going to grab some quinacridone and I'm going to use that to streak a little bit right there. Okay. There we go. So I'm putting that quinacridone over the top of some of those. It's the quinacridone plus white. I'm just going to pick the ones that I like the most and solidify those a little bit. There we go. Lift as I get up to where I kind of want it to be. And I'm going to streak some in this direction down too. They don't have to connect. You can connect them, but they don't have to. Okay, so hopefully that's showing on camera. I'm going to grab some more white, a little bit of the yellow. I'm going to go back in here and just kind of soften up some of these lines. So if I got one too thick or got one in there that I don't like, I can kind of go over it now with my white and sort of blend them in a little bit. Nice thing about acrylics is they are opaque, so they kind of cover over. They cover multitude of sins here, or in this case, just blending some of these colors, softening them so that they look a little bit more natural, transition-wise. And grab a little bit more of this blue. There's a little bit more blue. This is that cerulean blue and white. Here I might add a little bit more white to it, and I'm just going to use it right in here. Grab a little bit of that blending glazing medium. Putting that in there with it, it'll help it move the paints a little bit. Okay, so we're looking pretty good.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of green to my unbleached or my Quinacridone Magenta. That's going to make kind of a grayed pink color. I'm going to use that right down in here. Probably need to switch back to my larger brush. It just didn't want to cover well enough for me. So quinacridone and green are opposite on the color wheel, so adding them two together will just create a more muted version, and this will be good for some of my shadow areas. Add a little bit of white to it. I'm going to use it right up in here. And this is kind of dry brushing right here now. Add a little bit of the glazing medium to get it to flow a little bit. But I want to keep it pretty close to this area here, so I'm just going to kind of use my finger and blend out that edge. And I think I will use this brush with my white and use it as a opposite, as a blending tool. So I'm going to grab the white and just blend down over a little bit to soften that up. I don't always have to do that. You know, sometimes you want it super dark, but if it's not blending well into your next color, you sometimes have to do that. So just wasn't wanting to blend. All right, so that's looking pretty good, I think. There. Let's go really dark right in here. Most of that's going to be green stuff coming up over that, but I want it nice and dark right down in there. Let's use that shadow color. Let's use a little bit of it over here too. Add a little bit more of the cerulean blue to it, and white. Mix those two together. Just kind of creating blends of all these colors that I've used previously now, and then these will kind of just add different layers of color. We'll add a little bit of this in here. Kind of this purpley color. Add a little bit of it right here. Add a little bit of the glazing medium to get it to flow. There we go. Add a little bit of it right here. Just looking at all of my darkest shadow areas on my photograph. Maybe add a little bit right there. Grab a little bit of the quinacridone itself and add a little bit of really bright right there. Let's add a little bit of really bright down in here too, over the top. There and there. Here I'm creating these streaks by using the edge of my brush. Pulling these streaks this way. Let's create a little bit of really dark down in there. This one. right. Kind of neglected this one. Let's do a little bit more on this one. And the reason that I'm not doing the background first is just because that way I won't have to worry about keeping this edges clean. I can do these long brush strokes and kind of go over the edge a little bit. And then when I go back in and do my background, I can clean it all up. All right, let's add some white. Cleaning up, blending back in. Clean out my brush because I still have a lot of that pink in there. I want to keep that clean-ish. Grab some more white. Picked up a little bit of yellow there too, which is fine.
Okay, there's, okay, yeah, it is a titanium brush you're using. 1/2 inch flat.
Yep, number 4.
Number 4, titanium.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to get I need to get all of the ones that are on my brush list. I don't have all of them. I have some of them. I just haven't filled in all of the ones that I'm missing. So I need to still order those from them and get them in so that I have them for my videos.
Yeah, somebody asked in chat, and I said it's a 1/2 inch something.
Close.
And so they were trying to find them on the brush guys.
Oh, they do
Page.
have these. They're just not on my list. But the only reason they're not on my list is because they said that they're not going to be continuing to use them or have them on their website.
Yeah,
they're not,
but will they have the 1/2 inch something?
Yes, they'll have 1/2 inch somethings. Okay.
Okay. Come on, stay with the jokes.
I'm sorry. Just trying to get this painting done here. That's all.
It's okay. I'll have some chocolate while you're doing that.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm going to use this kind of muted color that I've used before, and I'm going to use it right in here. There's a little shadow part right here where that kind of curves down slightly, I guess. So use a little bit right there. Wipe my brush off, grab some more of my white, and blend over the edges a little bit just to soften them up. Make sure it blends in well. Grab a little bit more of that. Some Cerulean Blue.
Is it distracting with me opening up this package here?
What are you getting into?
The Mona chocolate.
Oh, Mona's chocolate that she sent you from Sweden. I can't believe we haven't eaten all those yet.
Well, I told her that we were savoring it.
We have been.
That's too big of a piece. Gonna half that. Save it for later.
They stay in my studio, so my boys can't find them. They'd have been gone already. All right.
Sorry
so I feel
to
like that
all the
this area
painting
here
people.
needs some work, huh?
I was just saying sorry to everybody who's watching this to actually paint the flower,
Right.
listening to me opening
Talking
chocolate.
about chocolate. Mm-hmm. All right, you're just making us hungry. Okay, now I'm going to start introducing some green. So I'm going to grab this vivid yellow green, brilliant yellow green, I guess it's called. So if you don't have it, you can mix it with the phthalo green and yellow. So it's easy to mix. I'm going to do this section right here with some of this color. I'm just going to go over the top of some of the other colors I've done. That's okay. Let's do a little bit over here. Lilies have a lot of this green in them. A lot of lilies do. And I'm not sure why, but I've noticed it in several of the lily paintings that I've done. There's this green, or a green that comes out from the center here. Let's put a little bit right here. And we'll add a little bit on each petal. So each petal will get a little bit of this green. It's amazing how it just tones everything down. It's kind of like makes it all make sense a little bit more. All right, so let's make the color that's the shadow color for our green. We're going to use the burnt sienna plus a little bit of phthalo green. And I still have that other yellow in my, or other color in my brush, so that's fine. Just going to tone down the green just a little bit. We'll use it right down in here. We're going to add some other colors to it too, but this will be kind of our starting color. So just that section there. For now, I'm going to wipe most of it off, and then I'm just going to pull some up into my other colors while they're wet. Let's grab some Ultramarine Blue and add it to that color. And add a little bit of that down here too.
What exactly is a bright brush?
The bright is a shorter bristled. It's a flat by flat it means it's this part's flattened out and smushed flat so that the edge has a squared tip. And the bright is, grabbing the blending medium here, the bright is just shorter than the regular flat, so it's got a little bit. This is the bright, or close to a bright version of this brush. It's not exactly the same, but yeah, it's close. I think it's this version's flat. So there's a flat and there's a bright. Generally, I use brights. My bright in this size is getting a little bit distressed, to say the least. Its little edges are fuzzing out, so I didn't use it today. But either one will work. Okay, so it's going to look really weird when you do this. Trust it. Trust me. It will. You'll need it to be that dark. So don't freak out when you put it on there. It has to be that dark for you to get the depth that you want. We're going to add other colors on top of it. It'll mute it a little bit, but it really needs to be dark, especially right down in that little section right there.
I'm glad you said that because I was about to lose it.
You were
I was about to lose my beep.
You're like, oh no, she didn't.
Oh, stay calm.
She
Paint on.
exactly. White and they look great. I'm sorry if you're new. All I have to say is I'm sorry. This happens all the time, so just get used to it. I hope.
Hey, they're getting what they paid for.
That's true. It's free. Yeah. Very true. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of that to that. This is the yellow or phthalo green yellow shade with white, and it's just made this soft minty green. And I'm just going to add it a little bit to right here, especially. This one has the most green showing. This one has some too, though. Let's put a little bit of a center in this one. I'm going to put it along that center line there and there, just to kind of, that it kind of turns to green as it comes down into the flower, it seems like. And then it sort of changes as it goes farther away from the center. Grab a little bit of white and just mix that, blend it in a little bit. Always blending, blending, blending. All right, let's add, let's put a little bit of that color actually before I clean it out completely. Let's put a little bit of it down here. And a little bit of it up here. Notice a little bit right there. Okay. Getting close. I feel like we need something in here. This is not quite working for me. So let's grab some blue. And some of the quinacridone. Make it pretty, really light purple color. We'll use it right in here. Very lightly. What were you going to say, honey?
Somebody has asked, how do you choose the colors for your palette? You know, how do you look at a picture and know, okay, it's this specific pink or blue? Or...
Well, I mean, in this case, I kind of decided to do my shadows in blues. If you look really closely to the example painting, there are some blues in the shadows. Blue is a pretty common shadow color anyways. But I just look really closely to try to see the overall colors that are in there, and then I work my other colors around it. So, you know, if my shadow colors are going to be this blue, then I want a warm color for some of my highlight areas. So the yellow comes in, even though in this case there's not as much of the yellow in my example, and probably not as much of the actual blue that I'm using in there. I'm just playing with the colors a little bit and fudging them, making them work for me. So it's just, I mean, I could use grays, but to me, I'd rather use color than a gray to create my shadows and things. So I tend to go for color when I'm looking for shadows. I hardly ever use gray. It's just a personal choice, but you can use grays too, you know. So I could have chosen to do the lily with, you know, grays instead of these blues. So I could use, you know, white with a little bit of black or something like that to make a gray, or you could, you know, mix a chromatic gray out of some colors or something. But the key is to not make it come out looking like circus lily. So we want to stay. I'm adding all these colors in, and I'm going to soften everything with a little bit more white here toward the end. Because right now that, you know, it's looking very, very colorful. So I just need to mute everything down just a little bit. So this is my pink mixed with my yellow with white here. So once I get all of these really bright values and dark values in and bright colors in, then I can go back over and soften like I did there and kind of leave some of the really bright, because I don't want to take that all out, but I'm going to cover over some of it. It'll still see some of those colors through it, but it won't be as in your face pink or blue or whatever. So it's starting to look softer already. But some of the, you know, if you look at your picture though, there's some of the areas that are really pretty bright color. So I'm going to use that purple mixture again. I noticed this, I lost the section that pokes back out right there. This petal kind of pokes in and then back out before it touches. Okay, so I'm going to make some really dark areas. So I'm going to grab the Quinacridone Magenta and Burnt Sienna. Might even add a little bit of my Ultramarine Blue. I'm going to add just some little defining outlines just here and there. I'm just using the real edge of my brush to kind of outline a couple areas. I don't want it to be super look like an outline too much, so I want to blend it in slightly to do the colors around it. But it'll just help kind of pop some of these petals on top of one another a little bit, because they were kind of getting all lost. Like, you look right in here right now. So I'm going to do it. I'll do it over here and you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to outline it just slightly. Using the edge of my brush. You could use a small liner or something like that too if you wanted to. And I'm going to pull a little bit of white. And just soften that up. Maybe pull a little bit of it out. Grab my light white. I'm running out of white. Blend back over. Just tapping, tap, tap, tap. Small brush strokes. Very little paint. While that paint's wet, I can kind of blend that out. And this has gotten way too dark right here, so just keep adding. Actually, I want to use this one. The smaller bottle seems like it's a little bit thicker. Getting close though, so we got about an hour and a half in. It's really, honestly, I just play with it at this point. It's not anything straightforward, like I can say, okay, do this and then you're done. It's kind of just looking at what you've done, and sometimes you need to fiddle with things a little bit more before you feel like they're ready to be finished, you know. It's just kind of a personal preference at this point. So here's the white, and there's a light highlight that comes in on this front side of this tongue here. I'm just going to blend that over that dark area. I'm not going to cover over it completely, but I'm just going to kind of blend it out a little bit so it's all a little softer, especially on that one side. How I did that. And let's see, I'm going to grab some of that green. I've kind of lost my green there. Kind of grab some of that green. This one has green all the way up there. This one does too, so we'll do the green all the way there. We'll go ahead and do some green in this one too. And while we're at it, might as well just throw some green in all of these. Just some of that darker green. Make sure and pull it up a little bit higher. Okay, that's looking good. Let's switch back to my smaller brush now. So I'm going to make a mixture with my Pyrrole orange and a little bit of yellow. Wipe most of it off. We'll use it right in here, brighten up this area right here. We'll use it right here, brighten this up. Right here, there's a really bright orange right there. There's some bright orange streaks in here. Grab some white, mix that in. I'm going to blend over some of these areas if I got them too orangish. Need some to weigh down my plate so it doesn't move on me while I'm trying to blend. Now that I'm not holding it, it kind of doesn't have an anchor. trying not to hold it anymore so you guys can see what I'm doing.
I could nail it down to the table for you.
I might have you do that. Is that an option?
It can be. We'll glue it or something.
Glue it? Okay.
Velcro. Or, I'm sorry, hook and loop.
That's right, because Velcro is the brand. Don't want to. Okay, so I'll grab that pink mixture that had a little bit of the yellow in it there. We'll add some more streaks of that in here. I haven't done a whole lot with this one, so I think I need to put some color in here. We need some of this Cerulean Blue right down in here. Grab some white and some glazing medium.
So since this is a pretty advanced painting, what would you suggest as a beginner painting out of your library? In the flower genre.
In the flower genre, well, the poppy one would be the one that I would start with if you wanted to do one of these large flowers and do the, do an easier version. The poppy is definitely a lot easier, I think, than this one. Grabbing white, blend in with the white.
What about your Gerber daisy?
Yeah, the Gerber daisy, definitely. That's probably the easiest one for sure. That was one that I did a long time ago. It's one of my very first painting videos that I'd ever put on YouTube. So the lighting's not that great, and the sound's probably, I think there's a fan running in the background the whole time because I didn't have my LED bulbs, which have reduced the temperature in my studio about 20 degrees. Oh my goodness, those, I used to have so many of those, is it called incandescent bulbs? And I would just be sweating in here. It was so hot with all the bulbs going. If it was bright enough, for the camera, then it was too hot for me to survive in the studio. It was kind of the catch-22. So I had to have it bright enough for the camera, but oh my goodness, it was so hot in here. So I'd have the fan going, and of course it was like in the background. I have so many comments. I don't know if it was that video. I think it's the other one that has like 800,000 views, the one I did with the Q-tips. That 90% of my first comments were like, "What is that noise?" I'm like, "Sorry, it's the fan." So I don't guarantee the quality's up to par, but it's definitely a good instructional video, and it actually has a lot of good techniques in it. A lot of techniques that I'm not doing today. Well, I mean, it's got washing and things like that that I'm just not. It's not in this video, but it's good stuff to learn.
Are you saying you don't wash anymore?
Right, I don't wash.
Okay.
I didn't. Yeah, no. Well, washing is when you thin down your paint and put a color on top of your what you've laid down to change the tone without having to repaint everything. It just changed the color without. Okay, so I've got white here. Now see, this is where I'm going in, and I'm just kind of strategically lightening up certain areas, pulling out some of these highlights that I want to be showcased. Grab some of my white and yellow. Make a very light yellow. This area here has got some really bright highlights that's yellow. I don't want to get it too close to that shadow area though. This area here has got some light yellow up here. This area here. color right here. This area that comes in from the thing has some yellow. Okay, so now it's just starting to look a little bit softer. I hope you can see that kind of slight general transition that we're creating here, but it's kind of just by adding some more of this white on top of some of these colors, it'll just soften everything up a little bit. Now that we've got our dark values, we can kind of play on top of it. Go right up next to them. Going right up next to that dark color pops that petal forward. Let's put a little bit of this magenta color right above it. That'll make it come out at us a little bit even more. We'll blend it up into this petal a little bit. Remember, we want this center part to get nice and dark. It's going to be in shadow, so let's grab some white. Put a nice bright streak right there. There's some white that kind of comes right down along that edge. It's kind of a fold in that petal. So the raised areas, the areas that are closest in height or raised up where the sun's catching them, or will be your brightest whites. And so by putting them up next to those darker areas, you're going to automatically get the depth that you're wanting. So right here, nice and bright. A little bit on that side too. That's the highest point of that petal. And then it starts to darken here and darken this way. Let's do the same thing on this one. This is the bright part. It's the highest point of this petal. Pull some white in here, and we'll do some white on this section here coming down on either side. I hope y'all try this. Don't feel like you have to do this much detail. Honestly, I showed you, at the beginning where we had it, with just a couple layers, you can still get a beautiful painting. So don't let it. I'm just going for it today. I decided to go full on realism, the full lesson here. So this is definitely a fine art type lesson plan here for Easter. You kind of have to do it though to give the lilies just got so much intricate folding and things. Kind of like when I did the iris paintings, they have the same thing. They have all these beautiful little petals that come off and catch the light in different ways as they unfurl. So here I'm just going in with white now. And I'm just brightening up and softening up these colors. The white's not going to cover completely. You're still going to be able to see some of these other colors underneath. But it's just going to add a softness to your flowers. I'm not going over the top of that green there all the way. Just want to soften the edges of it a little bit. Let's add a little bit of blue. There's no blue in here. So let's grab some of that Cerulean Blue. Add a little bit of that in there. Okay. Maybe a little bit in the center here. quite blend it out. I'm typing a lot today. Are you chatty today? And
Well, we got several first-time makers of the live show, so we're saying
great.
hi and welcome them there too. And
wonderful.
there may or may not be discussion about bacon. I mean, it's right on point with the painting today.
Bacon.
Yep. So
It's always fun. It's always something interesting
wait a
going on in
minute.
chat.
Somebody disrupted the bacon chat, asking, "Is that titanium white or mixing white?"
It's titanium white.
Okay. All right. Now back to your bacon talk.
Okay. I'm mixing the quinacridone white blend here too, just to kind of add back in some of that. Okay, we're getting close here, which means we got another half hour to go, probably easily, right? Is that the time schedule that I normally, when I say we're getting close? What is
Oh
it?
yes, it's at least a half hour.
At least a half hour. Okay.
And then there's the fiddling section. After that,
right.
where you just kind of
Do little finishing touches.
in air quotes, finishing touches.
Okay. All right. It's what makes the painting, like, you got to put those little final touches in there. It's what makes it special. Okay. So grabbing the pink and white here, and I'm just going to add a little bit extra just here and there in areas where I feel like it needs to be a little bit darker. Actually came all the way over here now that I'm looking at my picture. Wipe it off, grab some white, blend the white in. Since white is our kind of base color, everything's going to kind of be blended with it, and it's our dominant color. So sometimes it's other colors. It just depends on what your flower color was. If my flower color was red, I would be using red instead of white to blend all these in. So it just depends on what your color scheme is. But every painting will have kind of a dominant color as an undertone, and that's when I'm blending, that's the one I'm pulling from and to blend everything else with, to help it all kind of soften and merge. It's looking really good, I think. So this section here needs a little bit of work. Needs a little bit more white right along here. This point comes up quite a bit and blends down into the shadow areas, and then there's some highlight areas right in here too. They don't meet though. There's a little shadow area right there, so it's just a little bit of light color right along that edge though. It curls back up. Okay.
So we got
Do some
people
quinacridone.
from. Oh, I'm sorry.
Quinacridone and Pyrrole orange here. Okay, go ahead.
We got people from India and Canada, all over the U.S. Hold on, I'm looking for the specific person here. Oh man, chat's moving too fast. Would you guys stop typing for a minute, please? Come on. Give a guy a break. Now so anticlimactic.
You can't find the name that you're...
Okay, well, yeah. So the person says to let you know that they adore your work. And I think, yep, they're from the UK.
Ooh.
We have a first-time viewer.
If anybody wants to pay for us to go on vacation, I'll do private lessons. That's all I'm saying.
We'll throw in a free lesson if they pay for the trip.
Exactly.
And Hamburg, Germany's joining us.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Okay,
You
all
may
right.
have to pass a
Okay, I'll even go too.
yeah.
All right, if that's the deal breaker, I'll go too.
True. I know we've got viewers from Hawaii. I have a feeling that somebody's got to need private lessons in Hawaii. That's all I'm saying. One of these days, we'll tour the world. Hopefully, I'd love that. I love traveling. It's one of my favorite things. We haven't gotten to do it in a long time, just with kids and everything. The first time I ever traveled where I didn't have my boys, it had been, I want to say, we'd been married 10 years?
It was 12 years. It was our
12
12-year anniversary.
Oh.
We went to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, well, no, I was thinking of when we went to Paris, or when we went to, I'm talking without anybody.
Okay.
Like, yeah. No, I mean, but that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, but it was with you, so.
Well, no, I was with you in Paris. I'm just
That's
saying,
true.
it was the first time that as an adult, I'd been by myself all day. Literally.
Yeah, that was,
All day
13
and-
years.
I know. It was really life-changing. It's like, what do I do with myself? That's when I decided to go back into painting, honestly, because I hadn't been painting because I went back to work full time, and then we had our third child, and I was back home, and I was just not sure what I was going to do with myself. And I had been painting before, but I had not painted in a couple of years, and so, yep, that trip was. I seen all that art and everything. I was like, I need to do that. That's what feeds my soul. I need to do art. Fortunately, Mark was okay with me staying home and not making money for a few years.
You were
Taking
doing
care
a
of Spencer.
great job taking care of our kids
Yeah,
and raising
exactly.
them. That's why they're fine, upstanding young men,
Yes.
I believe. So
Honestly, yep.
it was a very worthwhile investment, trust me.
It was.
Now it's time for me to stay home and you.
I'm all about that. I'm ready for you to retire and be with me all the time. I hope that we can get the business to where you can stay home and play video games, more video games, and I can paint and take care of you for a while. That'd be awesome.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. I may make you do more social media stuff for me, though. You may have to take over my Twitter, too, and all that.
Let me see here.
Might have to make that in your contract. Maybe we're on the 9-year plan, so we're trying to retire Mark in 9 years. If we get there beforehand, that'd be great, but that's kind of our goal. So those who are helping with Patreon, that's what you're helping us move toward. Not just equipment, but also #RetireMark.
I got a feeling I'll work more when I'm retired.
You think?
Just by listening to the tone of your voice.
Like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Slave labor. You already give up your one weekend day to do this, so I appreciate that. For sure, we were already like working 2 jobs in a way. Okay, I think we're done. I'm liking that. I think I like it. So what we need to do now is do the background, and then we can do the stems and things over the top, because some of them are going to overlap our background. So we have to do those first. So let me mix up that color. It was And you can use whatever color you want. You do not have to use the same color that I used. For some reason, I was in a gray-blue mood yesterday, so I mixed up ultramarine with phthalo green. And I'm mixing up a lot of it because I ran out halfway through yesterday. So mix those two colors. It makes this pretty kind of almost teal, but not quite blue. And then we can add white to it. You could add a little bit of burnt sienna to it to even mute it a little bit more if you want to. I'm going to see how this does, just these two, and see. I might add the burnt sienna to it. I'll see what it looks like when I add a little bit of white. Well, that's pretty good. I think I'll leave that as my color. So we'll start laying that on. It'll be a little bit brighter than the burnt sienna mixture. If you want to gray it out just a little bit more, just add a little bit of tiny touch of burnt sienna. But I think that that'll be a pretty color. It's like kind of a teal, unusual teal color.
Someone has asked...
Switch to my angle brush so I can get into these little tight spots here.
if they're painting on a smaller canvas, does that change the amount of different colors that you use? Like if it's going to be a smaller flower? Or would you use the same wide variety of colors?
I would, yeah. I used all of those colors on my smaller example when I did mine. You might not, you know. Yeah, I definitely, just because it's smaller, I think you can still use all of those colors to your advantage, for sure. This is where it's going to really start popping out. This is my favorite part of doing these flowers, because then you really see what you got. And, you know, inevitably you may need to go back in and add a little bit of white or touch up your edge or whatever you need to do. If you get it over the top of your flower, just try not to. If you get it, if your flower is completely dry, before you do this, it'll help, because then what you can do is, I'm just going to have to squeegee off. This is way too much paint on my brush. My blue had little boogers in it or something. It was drying.
I promise you it wasn't from me.
You didn't, no, sneeze over here?
No.
Okay.
I took my allergy medicine.
I find that tilting my canvas and holding it in the direction that I'm painting kind of helps too. So don't feel like you have to lay it flat or have it on your easel. Or well, I mean, if you've got a larger canvas, I guess you do have to keep it on your easel. You'll have to move around it to adjust your... But you can turn it upside down and sideways on your easel even to help you get these little angles in. Using a good flat brush or even an angle brush that's got a good fine chiseled edge will make this go a lot faster. You can just clean up these edges really quickly. This brush is a newer one, so I'm not as fast with it. As you get kind of, I don't know, I may be weird. I kind of form relationships with my brushes. It kind of sounds weird, but after you use a brush for a certain amount of times, you get to know it and you kind of can trust it to do certain things, and so you can move faster with it. You can work a little bit quicker because you know how it's going to react when you do certain things. So I'm going to blend out that edge so that it's not going to be hard. So come back to it. Add a little bit of the glazing medium to help it blend too. And I want to stay pretty solid, so I don't want to add too much of that glazing medium. I can add a little bit of water. This is one of the Princeton brushes that's on my list, I think. So, and I think it's this one, and then there's a larger one that I've used for larger canvases. So it just depends on which. This is the number 6 Angle Bright. So this is, the 6s are about a 1/2 inch wide in the Princeton brushes. Each brush set has a different number system, so you just kind of have to know your brushes. Look and read if it tells you how wide they are, and things like that. This is about a 1/2 inch angle here. This is where we need a music interlude, or like the fast forward button. I will not be offended if you're watching the recording and you fast forward this part. I perfectly understand. It's a lot of repetition here.
Yeah, you told me there was music I could use, but I never got it set up.
I know. They're not very long songs, so you'd have to use several different ones. But yeah, we'll have to figure out some. My TubeBuddy account has free music you can use. It's not like songs with, like, I mean, it's not like something you'd hear on the radio. It's like filler music, though. It's not like, it's not something I would like turn on to listen to while I'm painting normally. So you might just throw some music on your radio here if you're, which I would normally have blasting. Speaking of music.
And when she says blasting, she means blasting.
Yeah. It's the best way to listen. If you can't feel it, it's just not, I don't know, you're just not part of the experience if you can't, feel it in your bones. It's just, I don't know. Did I wake you up last night?
No, not at all.
Good.
I told you to turn up as loud as you wanted it.
I know. Radiohead was on Coachella last night, so I had to stay up late watching that. It literally, and like, there's a 2-hour time difference, I guess. East Coast, West, or Pacific, Central. So, yeah. Yep. It was like 3 in the morning before I got to bed last night. But it was worth it. I can't believe you didn't stay up for that, hon. You missed out. I think that was the only concert that we've ever been to that you sat through the entire thing. I was so embarrassed for you. It's like, really?
I'm glad you were embarrassed for me.
This is Radiohead. I cannot believe you're sitting down.
I don't think they noticed.
Screaming at the top of my lungs.
At no point in the concert did they stop, say, hey,
Why
dude.
Are you guys sitting down over there?
Stand up. We're not going to play anymore. Please stand back. Stand up.
If you would have been to the Green Day concert with me, he would have called you out. He was making everybody stand up, and it was like every song. It's like, stand up, raise your hands, scream. It's like, I didn't know this was so interactive. I would have.
Sounds like an episode of The Wiggles.
It really was. I was like, dude, I'm tired. I don't want to scream anymore. I got to talk tomorrow. Oh, goodness. Concert woes.
So did we already talk about all your social media stuff? So, just say thanks to everybody who's watching today and stuck it out this far.
Yep.
If you're new to Angela's channel, like the video, please. You can hit the subscribe button. Go check out all her 160 plus, we'll break 200 this year, videos from all ranges of beginner to intermediate to advanced.
They're all in playlists by level of difficulty too, so if you want to check those out, or by subject too. So
All the materials for this painting is listed down below in the description, and also links to the brush guys,
yes,
where you can get 5% off using the Angela Fine Art code. Also a link to her Patreon account, Instagram, Twitter,
Facebook, where you can share your art
Facebook.
with me if you paint this.
Yep, that's a closed group. So, just submit and you get accepted into the group. And you can share your paintings and see what everybody's doing.
If you're new to Facebook, you may have to send me a message to let me know that you've actually are like a, we don't let
A real
anybody in that's
person.
got a brand new account usually, just because a lot of those people are spammers. So if you're joining Facebook just to share something with me, you might just want to send me a quick note just to make sure we let you in. We're really protective of that group. We don't want to make sure that there's kids in there, so we try to keep it clean, and spammers can cause a lot of havoc, have caused a lot of havoc in the past. So we're real selective about who we let in. But that means that you're sharing your art with other people who are genuinely art lover. And it's also a positive zone. No negativity, no negative feedback. If you don't like the painting, you don't have to comment on it. But there's always something encouraging you can say. We're all beginners, or we're beginners at one point, or all at different levels of our painting experiences, and there's no reason to criticize anybody for expressing themselves. So that is number one rule, is be kind. And that can be hard to find in art groups. I think it makes us pretty unique. But it's only, we've changed the rules this last week, just because we've gotten so large and it's hard for me to keep up with it. So it's only my tutorials in that particular group. Then I have other Facebook groups where you can share your art from other sources. So it's just Thankful Art is my group for people who are doing my tutorials, so that I can see them and comment, hopefully, if I can find time. I usually try to get there at least once a week, and I do Monday art chats in there too, which I might change to YouTube. I don't know, haven't decided. Okay, I'm running out of this color. Even though I mixed so much of it, I still ran out. Okay. We'll just mix some more. It's just about, it's a little bit more ultramarine blue than phthalo green, so it's probably maybe 2 to 1, something like that. Just a little bit more on the blue side than the green side. Here we go. And you could do this on a separate paper if you need to. And that's a little bit more green. I need to add a little bit of blue. Uh-oh. Oh, look what I did. Messed up my ultramarine blue. Okay. Let's see if I can get all of that out of there. I knew better than that. Okay. Whew, that was close. That was not smart. If you're mixing this, just mix a little bit more than you think you need. It's always better to have a little extra than not enough, especially when you're mixing a special color for the background like this. But what I'm going to do is just going to use a little bit of this color over in some of these other areas and blend it in so that it looks like, even if it's a little bit different, I'll have a little bit of it in other places, so it can be, it'll look like we meant to do that. Maybe have a little few brush strokes showing, that kind of thing. Okay, we are almost done. Sorry, this is the most tedious part here. So. I leave it out, but it's really important. It just makes a big difference, and we have to have the background for the. We could have done the background. Well, I could have painted the whole background blue, but the reason that I didn't do that was because we're doing white flower. If I was doing a different color flower, I might have done it, but since we're doing such a dark background color and we're using such a light flower on top of it, it makes it hard to cover all of the dark blue with the white, and we would have had to do, several coats of white to cover over. So it actually will save us time in the long run by doing it, even though it's a little bit tedious going around the flower and all that. It actually saves us time painting around it than painting it as an undercoat. It's just
what were the colors that you mixed for the background there?
phthalo green, yellow shade, and ultramarine blue. And you can also add a little bit of, I added a little burnt sienna to my example piece, so it's a little bit more on the gray side. There's the difference there. It's a little bit darker and a little bit more gray. Then this one's a little bit brighter blue. But it's kind of an interesting aqua. And because there's so much yellow in the phthalo green and so much purple in the ultramarine blue, purple and yellow are opposite on the color wheel, so they kind of tone each other down and make it a more muted color than it would normally be. If I had used phthalo blue instead of ultramarine blue with my green, I would have ended up with a really bright turquoise color. But because I used the ultramarine blue, it's a little bit more muted turquoise. Still in that family, that teal family, but it's not quite as bright. I just think it's a pretty color against this flower, and since we've used both of these colors in the flower, it'll all be unified. I think that's really important. When I'm picking a background color, I almost always pick something that I've already used in the painting itself. Even if I've only used a little bit of it, it'll help your painting look a little bit more unified and natural if you choose colors for your background that are in your, and even if you choose colors that are opposite on the color wheel, that even helps even more. So, whoop. Opposite the color wheel for this particular color would be like a reddish blue or reddish orange. So this color here is basically opposite on the color wheel. There's enough of it to be a good contrast for this color. It's a complementary color theory, hashtag color theory. There we go.
Okay, a couple questions asking the difference between phthalo green yellow versus phthalo green blue.
Really is just what it sounds like. The phthalo green yellow has more of a yellow undertone. The phthalo green blue has a more bluish undertone. So when you mix it if you mix the phthalo green, the reason I like phthalo green yellow tone because it makes a more vivid green. So if I want these really, really bright greens, like this color here that is the premixed version, you won't get that if you use the phthalo green blue shade. You'll get a more muted you'll still get a bright green with you mix it with yellow, but you won't get as bright as that. And I just like that really bright, vivid color. And plus it's what really it's closest to what's the natural color of this flower. If you look at the picture, it is that kind of a really bright yellow green. So, okay, there we go. See, look at how much different that painting looks now. And now this center doesn't look quite so weird. I'm going to darken it up one more time right there because it got a little bit of pink over it. But now it's really going to help it a lot. Actually, you could put a stem in too. I forgot to put a stem in my example. So if you wanted to do that, you could definitely add a stem. So let's switch to my smaller brush. Let's go ahead and sketch out what.
A real quick follow-up question. Somebody asked if the phthalo green blue shade, would that work? Or is that a whole different color? Phthalo green blue shade.
It would work, yeah. It'd just be a little bit different. It won't be the exact same. It'll be more blue. It won't be as muted. It won't be as muted as this.
Okay.
So it'll be a little bit brighter turquoise color, but it'll be a beautiful color, yeah. That's no problem. And a lot of sets that you'll find do have the phthalo green blue shade for some reason. So it's just... Okay, so the center of the main thing is going to curve down and get mixed up with all of this stuff going on here. So it's going to end right about here. But this main stem is going to come up to right here. And then there are 3 coming off here. I'm using white chalk, so you're not probably going to be able to see it as I'll be able to see it a little bit. I'll show. It'll be easier to see once I paint it. There's one that comes up over like that, and then there's one that comes up like this. They all go down into here. They don't all meet in there. Some of them are kind of to one side or another, but most of them are all like right in there. I'm noticing I need a little bit more of this yellow color. I'm going to grab some of that phthalo green. And I need to do some bright yellow right in there. And right in here. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to grab my white. I'm going to grab a good little dollop of white here. It has a little bit of that blue in it, but it's not going to matter. And grab my vivid lime green. And I'm going to mix those two together just a little bit to soften that color just slightly. And it's still wet, but I think it'll be okay. Well, I'll do these smaller ones first. I'm going to need a little bit more of my phthalo green. Actually, I can use this blue color. We'll just use that, our background color. A little bit of more phthalo green to it, and then just a tiny bit of burnt sienna. Might even, let me see what it does with the Quinacridone Magenta. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so phthalo green and Quinacridone Magenta. That's what we want for our dark part. A little bit more phthalo than quinacridone, just a little tiny bit of quinacridone to tone it down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get both of these on my brush. I've got the light green. I have the dark green mixed in there. I'm going to pull this through my light green color. And I've got a small round here. And I'm just pushing it flat so that I've got both colors on here. You could use a flat brush for this instead. I'm just going to use it to pull my stems. This is going to curve all the way up to, it's actually going to go off the edge, so it's going to curve. Keep it very, very thin. And then it's going to thicken as it comes down here. And it ends right in here. You can be really glad you have all this dark hair behind these once you get these going. Okay. There. Add a little bit of the lighter color. Okay, this one curves to right about here, it looks like. It's going to go on top and right in front of that one. Clean that out. I'm going to grab some yellow with some white. Bring that over here. So there's some kind of translucency happening in some of these. I'm just going to add that yellow white color over the top of this one to help it pop out from the ones behind it. And then I'll do the green in the middle. Slightly. While it's wet, it's just going to blend a little bit. There we go. And a really fine point at the very tip. Alright, this one is going to come right up to about, it's actually going to be right up in here. There's this cone shape right there. Actually needs to be more green. Kind of almost upside down heart shape. Turn it around here. Get some of that darker color. Along that bottom edge, there's like a little shadow right there. And then the paint's getting sticky. There's this curve, long curved line that kind of comes in and goes up right up next to these two. Right there, and ends in the center. Okay. Go back in with some brighter color. I'm going to grab a little bit of white. And just dab a little bit of white right there for a highlight, and then we'll use this yellow green Right in the center, just to kind of highlight it, make it look a little bit more translucent, having that light shine through it almost. Leave the dark in the outside edges, but grabbing a little bit of that blue to mix in with it. Add it up there at the top. There we go. As they come down here, you're going to kind of blend them out a little bit. So you can grab some of that darker blue color and blend it up. Almost done, hun. 2.5 hours. That's enough. You still awake over there?
What? I'm sorry. Oh, it's absolutely amazing.
Do we have people still watching? Just you and me?
I wasn't going to tell you, but...
Everybody left an hour ago?
No. Well, no. No, we still got people hanging with us.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Let's do right up here. This one kind of ends right up in here and curves down. Kind of tucks behind this one. Gets whiter as it goes down. Grab some of that darker color. Just streak some of the darker color in there. This one is right here, and it kind of tucks up right next to it and then curves out and back up. And then there's one last one that kind of comes up over it, just curves right up over like that. Grab some yellow. Add a little bit of yellow with white. Up here, yellow. Just not quite bright enough. There we go. Add a little bit of this yellow here and there. Use that darker color and just kind of outline these to make sure they're separated visually. Make it a little easier to see what's what. Grabbing some of that blue that's a dark color and kind of tucking it in here where some of these overlap, just at the base. And then tapping over with that dark blue those edges to blend in the green so that it looks like it disappears down into the, grab a little bit more of that blue. This is that background color, Phthalo Blue and Ultramarine. Phthalo Green, I'm sorry, and Ultramarine Blue. I'm just going to pull from this direction up just a little bit on a couple of these. Just darken them up a little bit. Okay, so that's that. Now all we've got left to do is the little fuzzy parts. Well, and then we've got some, take it back, we've got a couple things. So let's grab some of the yellow and a tiny bit of burnt sienna. So burnt sienna is kind of going to be our color for these little fuzzy bits that are on top. And this one is I'm just going to use this flat brush and tap it, and it'll create these irregular edges.
And what brush are you using to do all this?
This is well, I used the smaller round brush, but you could have used this for those stems too.
And that is?
It's the number 2 titanium flat.
Okay.
Just any flat or bright brush would work. And then this one curves like this. Some of them you're seeing the underside, and some of them you're just seeing the top side. So they're all different shapes. This side, this one is kind of poking straight up at us, so we're seeing the sides of it and a little bit of green on either side. Like that. Do I need to zoom in? Are we okay? No, I meant to get this one closer, so this one's supposed to overlap that one. That's all right. And then this one is like this. And a little bit poking through that side. All right, now grab my orange and my yellow. I still have these other colors on my brush, so it's just going to blend together. I'm going to tap those colors in. Just using the corner this time. Just kind of at the top of each of these, there's a little bit of highlight. It'll show up the best against this one here. And then wipe that off. Grab some of the Ultramarine Blue with a little bit of the burnt sienna. And we'll use that to tap in a shadow under each of these. Just where there's just a couple places on these that doesn't take much. Not all of them will have as much of the shadow color. Okay. Use a little bit of this orange and mix a little bit of green with it. I'm going to use a little bit of it on some of these stems just to add a little touch of orange. And then grab the white and the yellow. I still had a little bit of that orange in there, just a little bit. Mostly yellow though. And we'll just do a little bit of that. Just for one extra little. And I'm kind of going on the inside of this so that it's not going up against the white, because that yellow will kind of disappear. So I want that dark color underneath this so that it'll pop out at us. There we go. And now I'm going to use the same color. This was the yellow green. It was the yellow, a little tiny bit of orange and white. And I'm going to use it to do little dabs. There's these little freckles or raised areas in these lilies all over. So I'm using the corner of my brush and I'm just going to dab with this color all over, mostly in this general area. It kind of goes up to about halfway up the petal. Try not to repeat too much so that you don't have matchy little dots. They're very random. I'm kind of keeping the angle of the dashes and the dabs in the angle of the flower. So these ones, I'm always kind of pointing the corner in the direction that our petal is going. If you get it too much, you can just wipe it off. So these ones are going to kind of come this way, up this way. I'm just going to follow the direction that I did my brush strokes. And so I'm laying these down. Too much on that one. Just take a little bit of that off with my wet towel. There we go. They stayed closer to the center on that one. And then there's some on this. Each one of these little petals is going to get some of these little dots. This will add a lot of detail, really interesting. Last little bit. Thanks guys for watching today. I really appreciate it. We always do. Those who watch regularly with us, you're a part of our little team here. We love getting to know you guys and interacting with you on Facebook and during chats and stuff. I kind of miss out on the chat part, but I get to hear about all the things that Mark's said and done afterwards. So y'all telling him for me. Thanks. So appreciate that.
What? They rat me out?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Oh. Okay, I see how this is going to be played.
Yeah. All right.
You can hold the painting up closer to the camera and you can see the dots and cute, as you would say. Don't forget Stickman.
Oh, Stickman. Okay.
Stickman. You want to do
Well,
Stickman?
we went late today. I don't know. We'll do Stickman next time. I don't feel like doing Stickman today.
Oh, it's all about you. Okay.
Well, I just don't want to. It's getting late. We've gone really long today already. Okay, I'm going to blend that out just a little bit. Here's the fussing stage.
I thought we were done.
We are.
You got time to fuss?
I'm laying it down. We're done. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.